Folks, you're all very welcome back to the Talk from the Terrace, and I'm delighted again to be joined by Alternative View editor Matt McGlone to talk all things Celtic as we head into pre-season after having a couple of weeks away from, I suppose, moaning and giving out about last season. So, without further ado, Matt, welcome to the show.
Hi Andrew, how you doing?
How have you been keeping?
I've been keeping pretty good, yeah. Keeping pretty good. The weather over here's been great, and been getting outdoors a lot and doing lots of walking. Keep the mind and the body going. So that's, I think we should all be trying to do that just now. Although we're sort of coming out of lockdown now and we're getting a lot more freedom, it does feel a bit strange that we've all of a sudden been sprung back in loose into society again. So that takes a wee bit getting used to.
Well, I have to say, you've got a good few weeks on us over there because the beer gardens opened about 3 weeks ago here, but I'm enjoying now getting my own back because I was getting a bit fed up looking at you on Twitter there, you and young Declan now drinking pints. But I have to say, it's done you good, Matt. You're looking very well, and I'm loving the green and white Adidas top, and I have to say, you have a nice little setting behind you there with all the Celtic books.
I've got there's about 4 shelves of Celtic books there. I had them in boxes and cupboards and under the beds. I decided to, with the lockdown, try and get organised a wee bit and get things out and about. But I've got a great selection of Celtic books and a great selection of books that people have actually gifted me, people have given me. I've got a bundle of books here. These are all from sort of 60s. These kind of older ones from the 60s.
Oh, very nice.
We've got Ronnie Simpson, Tommy Gebel, playing for Celtic, number 4, 2, 3, various ones. So, watch, I don't hit that too much, it'll come flying down top of me.
The props, you'll have to go into the prop department. Matt, have you, before we get stuck into Celtic, have you been watching the Euros? Because I've been loving it. I think it's the best tournament I've seen in years.
Aye, I kind of went off football. It wasn't Celtic for a wee while because there was no crowd participation. I used to watch quite a lot of English football. You know, Celtic weren't playing, and the lack of crowds kind of put me off. But Euros has definitely got me going again. You really do need crowd participation in football. People can say what they like, and I know that the Jock Stein's saying, but you know, the Euros has really livened the whole thing up for me. And now it's getting down to the sort of stage where, you know, it's really, really good teams that are playing against each other. I just hope it don't turn into chess matches. Sometimes 2 really good teams try and outwit each other and don't take chances. Are very careful in the games, a 0-0 draw or 1 each or whatever. But the 14 goals that we've seen the other night in the Portugal game and the France game, against Switzerland, I mean, that really whetted the appetite. That was fantastic. 14 goals in one night. Brilliant.
Oh, it was brilliant. But then we did have the game of chess between Belgium and Portugal. But I suppose you're going to get a few games at that. But it's just been, and as you say, the fans back in the stadium. You know, like some of the stadiums are actually full, which makes, you know, it really is.
I think it was which one was I watching? It was Denmark and. I can't remember the 1-4-1. Was it Russia? Yeah, Denmark and Russia. That was a fantastic game. I think that was played in Copenhagen, and the atmosphere, the place was bouncing. It looked like a full house to me. It didn't look like there was any restrictions.
It's been great to watch. And listen, talking about restrictions, how is? I know you're further ahead of us over there because we were supposed to open up at the start of July, indoor dining and the pubs, but they've put it back now because of fears of this new variant. How are we in Glasgow?
Well, everywhere's open in Scotland. You know, it used to be you had to book to get a table at an outside garden because they were limited because nobody could go inside. But now you can go inside and have a meal, and you just have to wear a mask if you're walking around from the table to the toilet or from the entrance over to the table. Everything else is fine. But I noticed today there was over another 4,500. Well, it was yesterday's figures released today. So I think that's the highest infection ever we've had here. So I don't know how it's going to go now, but hopefully with people being vaccinated, it's taking away the real danger of maybe having a serious illness or dying from it. touch wood, I've been okay, and I'm quite thankful of that because it's not something I'd want to get with my sort of current situation. So I've been double vaccinated, and I think the vaccination is obviously helping keeping hospital rates down, because I think that's a great fear from any government, that hospitals are overcrowded, people are in corridors and trolleys. I mean, that's a nightmare scenario for anybody. Maybe can't even see your relative or your friends at all. So hopefully the hospital admissions are low and people are staying healthy with it.
Yeah, Matt, hopefully they are, because you mentioned our pubs inside, and geez, it's going to be a great day when I can get back over and walk into McCools, hear a few tunes, or walk into the Brazen Head and see Jan behind the bar, because it's a massive part of our, I suppose, life over here, because
it's a massive part of the whole culture of going to Celtic games, as you know. Yeah. It's a day out, and it's more than just, what did you say, more than 90 minutes, as your magazine states. It's a lot more than that. McCools is a place that you and I go, and they back both of our magazines, fanzines. And I was actually in last week there, seeing Nicky, and
the wise one.
It's his birthday, and he is one of the most remarkable men I've ever met. I've known him since 1993, and when he had McCools round in Candleriggs, the first McCools, and he'd also another McCools in the West End called McCools Way Out West in Partick in Glasgow, or Finnieston rather. So I was in seeing Nicky, and the pub was busy. I was really pleased to see that, because they've had a really, really rough time. But I believe the grants haven't been great for places which have music licenses. I'm not sure the ins and outs of it, but I don't think they were given as much government help as some normal pubs who don't have music. So McCool's great, great atmosphere in there, great vibe, music and football, what more?
And it was Nicky who brought the Pogues to Glasgow. First time the Pogues came to Glasgow, and a great story. I've been trying to get him onto the podcast, but I think he's just a little bit unsure of the old technology, and if he only knew how simple it was. But hopefully we can get into the pub and have a proper chat with him, because, like as I said there, we're missing the pubs. And while I was off there we took a break here for about 3 weeks. It was meant to be for 2 weeks, but there was nothing happening at Celtic. So we said, right, we'll take another week. And I headed off around the country, and I was down in Kilkenny with the Wolftown Celtic Supporters Club, down in Cork with the Pack Glavin Supporters Club, and over in Waterford with the Port Lag. And everyone I spoke to, everyone has renewed their season books. Yes, there was a few sleepless nights, what they would or wouldn't, but then they just cannot wait to get back. They're not even talking about Celtic Park. The first step is to get to an airport or a ferry terminal and just get across to Glasgow. It's been surreal having to watch last season from, a laptop or a TV, and I couldn't, everybody I spoke to was the same. Just get us back. And they're all very excited about the new manager. Not so excited that, how slow it took to get him in and that, but the feedback has been very positive. And okay, initially, Matt, we jumped on Wikipedia and stuff like that to see who he was, but I'd done a bit of research. We got a Japanese journalist on. He gave us the story of, his time in Japan. And just on last week's Celtic Soul podcast, I spoke to Johnny Gould. He's over in New Zealand now, and he was a coach trying to set a team up against Ange. And he said, he's done an Invincible in Australia. He says, you'd hate going to play him because his teams are just such good teams. And he says, I always come off second best against them. So there is positive vibes. The Goldfish Bowl at Glasgow may pose other problems, but he doesn't seem a man that would take much shit, and doesn't seem fazed by the whole job, because it is a massive job now to rebuild.
Yeah, I watched his press conference. I thought he was great. I think you can tell a lot about a person's character, about the way they answer questions, and the usual tricky questions were thrown at him, and he answered them very, very well. I don't think he'll take any messing around. I don't think anybody's going to turn up unfit this year and expect to still be in the building. I haven't heard a negative word about him. I've did a bit of background like yourself on him, and to have won in Japan and to have won in Australia championships in both places, and to have managed the national team. I mean, you don't get that by being a bad manager. So for me, 100% behind him. Always will be with any Celtic appointment because we have to go along with it. But for me, I'm encouraged by him, and I think he'll do well for us as long as the PLC back him up, give him the tools for the job. There's signing yesterday, Hogahide. I think I've said that right.
I'm glad you said it, not me, Ma.
I've got it written down a bit of paper right in front of me.
I love your research.
Out in my head, did you? So he looks a big boy. He looks like a big sturdy player. Somebody that won't take any messing around. And we've also got Liam Shaw who's come in. Don't know much about the lad, but I think we're going to see signings coming in pretty rapid. We have to. I mean, there's no choice. We have to see signings coming in rapid now, as it's 17 days or less than 3 weeks for the first Champions League qualifier. So we have to be ready for that. But yeah, everything has been slow, but here we are. I mean, no point looking back. We've renewed our season tickets. All my family have, and we're all looking forward to it. And Dominic McKay said the other day there that it's been a record amount of season tickets. When I say a record amount, it's more than Rangers.
Yeah, the season book, he seemed very happy with the season book renewals when he done the fan media press conference. He said he got the figures and he was very happy. And I'm seeing on our club WhatsApp group, everyone has renewed in our club, which is, I think it's 120, which is quite a lot. You normally get a few falling.
That's great.
You normally get a few falling away, Matt.
That's fantastic commitment, considering where you guys are located. And considering there's so many other things in life that people have to spend money on, and it hasn't been a great season at all last year. But again, great commitment from you guys over there. Fantastic. I mean, I hope Celtic just don't take the kind of support from far away for granted, because you guys have really showed up.
Yeah, Matt, and just before I'm going to go back years now because just after reminding me of something. Mark Burke sent me on the audio from the Celts for Change meeting in Dundalk when all the Irish clubs backed the Celts for Change that time. And
I remember it well.
He also sent me on the audio from an interview he done at the time with a Dublin radio station. So I'm going to try and get them cleaned up and maybe get them out in some kind of format. It'll take a bit of work because they are old and the files aren't great.
I've seen one on a podcast a year or so ago from the Dundalk one. I've heard that it was an audio, and certainly takes you back. I mean, those were the days. I mean, I think back now, and I say to myself, 26 years ago, where did we get the energy, the drive, and the thought in the first place to sort of do something like this? And it never leaves you. It's been part of my life since, and there's the aspects of it which, really intrude into your personal life, which haven't been great for me. But overall, we did what was right at the right time. And Celtic were going down. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I know a lot of people said at the time, too big a club to go down. Well, we saw what happened across the road. And, Dundalk, I recall, I think it was 62 from memory. 62 Irish supporters clubs were represented there, and we got the vote from 61 out of 62. And the only reason we didn't get the other ones because the delegate that was at Dundalk for his club had to go back and speak to his members, and we got it the next day. So we got 100% support from the whole of Ireland, which I've got to say was better than we got from the whole of Scotland as far as supporters clubs are concerned. I'm not going to get into the politics of that just now. But the Irish Celtic sports clubs are backed as 100%, and certain Celtic sports clubs over here didn't.
And back then, our club wasn't even born. A lot of the lads were travelling with Nave Porrick. Some of them were members. Hilly was I think his title was the Loud Mead rep. And then when we broke away, because Mark just said, look, lads, you're getting too big, because I think there was 2 bus loads of us. There was 100 of us to an Aberdeen game. So we set off on a little journey with 3 season books and a loan of £200. And after the season we've had, it's great to commit you to the club. And, you know, it's called St Margaret's because at the time we were setting it up, Hilly's sister passed away with cancer. And, you know, there's so much involved in that club. And there's a family connection, and then the connection with Celtic and that. But I'm going off the beaten track. But just for the club again to deliver 120 season ticket holders when it's based in a small village in County Meath, you know, I know there's many of us not from there, but it is as I see the local club, and just it's just great, because it would have been, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if some people said, look, I'm not going to renew this year because I'm disappointed with what happened last season. But again, then, if you lose 40 season book holders, because I did expect about 40 to go and about 80 to stay. If you lose 40 season book holders, you'll be a long time building that back up. And it does put you in a good state going forward now. And, you know, you spoke about Ange there at the press conference, Matt. One thing I was impressed with him when he was asked, you know, I knew the question was going to come up, that, you know, he wasn't first choice. And he said, I don't care if I'm 4th or 5th choice. When Celtic come in for me, I was taking the job. And I just loved it because it was 2 fingers up to everybody, you know.
That was a great answer. That was a really good answer, because that's an answer you give that there's no comeback to. Because the guy's basically saying, I don't care, I'm here, I'm the manager. And if you're trying to make a wee point here, you know, that wasn't first choice, then, you know, your point has just evaporated, because I think he said if he'd been 5th choice, he didn't even know if he was 5th choice. So, so that was great. Again, it shows a bit of the guy's character, no messing about, straight in. And, you know, I think there are going to be some interesting press conferences coming up from now to next year.
Yeah, and Dominic McKay, he seemed very polished, Matt. He you know, his background in PR, very political, I thought, with his answers. Knew how to walk the room, knew how to answer but not answer. But it's, you know, it's too early to you know, to draw any comparisons with the previous CEO. But like, hopefully he can bring some ideas from, you know, rugby, because he done an amazing job with rugby, because, you know, rugby really grew over the last couple of years in Glasgow, because it's massive over here, but I could see it when we were going over there. And it's good to have a fresh pair of hands and a fresh mind in the boardroom, because that boardroom is so stale. And I think we all saw that when, you know, every time Ian Bankier speaks, which is rare, but you do go, you know, like, back to the bank and you know, the finance, because he's definitely not a football man.
Well, I heard Ian Bankier speak last week at the press conference, and I say, you know, don't know the guy. He doesn't fill me with encouragement when I hear him speaking. Maybe that's just the way he speaks, and that's fine. But Dom McKay spoke very strongly, very encouraging about Celtic in the season ahead, and the aims of where we're going. And the way I see the job of a chief executive guy is that he works for the club. The PLC tell him what the budget is. He tells the manager what the budget is, and they either decide that budget gets extended by selling some players and adding to the budget from the sales of the player going out, or working within the budget that they've got. Now, any manager worth his salt must know the budget before he walks in. He must have a rough idea. He can't walk into Celtic and be told your budget for the year to sign players is £5 million, because that's no good. So he has to be given a rough ballpark figure. Of course, that budget goes up and down depending on the players that go out. So we've already, you know, brought in money from last season, and, you know, there's players' contracts who probably who haven't been renewed this year, and loans that haven't been renewed. And Lee Griffiths has been given yet one other opportunity, which I'd suggest is his last opportunity, because last season we needed Lee to step up to the plate. And just going by what his former boss said, you know, Lee wasn't any good to us. So, you know, we have to take the personalities and the sentiment away. and sort of say, what are you doing for us on the park? Because at the end of the season, if somebody else is running about your trophy, it's because we haven't done well enough. And that's the only thing I look at in football. What are you doing in this jersey, on the park? Are you fit? Are you good enough?
Yeah, Matt, and like I look at Lee and it kind of, he divides even my own mind, never mind other supporters, because I look at him, right, and yes, there's reports that he came back unfit last season, but this is a new season. John Hodson, I seen him on Twitter there, and John knows the thing about scoring goals for Celtic, and he reckons he's a 25-goal man next season. I really hope so, because he does always, and he is a player that in previous seasons has got us off our seat. He scored some great goals. He's when he's on form, he's brilliant. He had a brilliant partnership with Eddie for a couple of months before the pandemic, and but I'm also glad he's staying, because he's the type of player that if he moved to another team in the SPL, he could do damage to us, because he knows our defenders and he's playing against them in training, and he is that type of player, and he could have come back to haunt us.
I'm glad he's signed, because I think on his game he's a great player. I think he's a very good player. He's a guy that gets round defences. It's not a big sort of stiff centre forward that's got to just be here or there. Lee can run from wide positions, run from midfield. He'll get round you. I'm glad he's signed, and I hope that he's taken the opportunity to say, "Well, what another chance I've got here, to make it with Celtic." Because on his game, he is a great asset to the club, and I can't see any reason why he's not really going to buckle down and focus here. The club have shown fantastic faith in him, and he's got to show that back. We need a fit Lee Griffiths on the park, and what an asset he is to Celtic.
Yeah, and the manager must have, he must be in his plans then, because, we've heard about this attack style of play. And when Johnny Gould was chatting to me, Matt, if it's a really good interview, if you give it a listen to the podcast, he said, he's the new manager, and is very much, like a Brendan Rodgers style manager, and that will excite the fans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they always say, a new broom brings great freshness, and he's come in there with a clean slate. As I said at the start, all we need, as far as I'm concerned, with this new manager is that the board back him with the player positions that need filled. And after that, then I think, we have faith in him. We don't know much about him, read up about him. He's got a good CV. And I think I'm feeling I've got renewed confidence for the season ahead. Like everybody else, I had lots of doubt, at the end of last season, the direction the club was going, and the ridiculous 10 or 12 weeks wait for Eddie Howe was just nonsense. But now we've sort of settled down and we're putting players into position. Yes, it's all a bit late, but we have to look forward. And I'm looking forward to new signings imminently, hopefully in the next days or weeks.
Yeah, Matt, you're much happier than you were the last time you were in the podcast, because that was a very frustrated and angry Matt McGlone. But we are more positive now.
Yeah. I mean, you have to, when you speak, you have to speak of how you feel at the time. And at the time, that was the mood at the time, and that's how we felt. And you have to reflect that when you speak. And I'm always trying to be I always try and look for the positive of a situation. And I'm trying to look for the positive here, and I'm feeling quite positive, I've got to say. I don't think it's a false dawn. I think that we are beginning to put building blocks in place here. It's slow, definitely slow, and obviously people are impatient. I get that, but I genuinely think that we're going to be getting things done in the next couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm more positive.
Yeah, because we've a huge task coming up. Preseason kicks off now on Wednesday against Sheffield Wednesday, but the big one coming up is FC Midtjylland, and I probably didn't pronounce that correctly either. But that's going to be a massive task, Matt, because the players aren't in place yet. So we may need to be patient this season, early in the season.
Well, I remember speaking to Ronnie Delia once about his theory in football, and he was always a team builder. And I said to him, well, how do you find it that you come into Celtic, you have to have success right away? He said, well, it's a new pressure. He said, it's a new pressure for me. I'm not used to it. And but I understand the demands of the fans and understand the demands of this club. So he got it pretty quickly. And I would imagine that, Ange at quite a lot of other clubs would be given time. But there is no time here, as you know. There is no time. We want instant success. But I always think when somebody's come in and if it doesn't work out right away, if we look closely at the reasons why it didn't work out, we can show a bit of patience there. If we demand and have to make it happen like magic, it's not going to happen that way. But hopefully, with all the building blocks in place and the right manager, the right attitude, and the renewed enthusiasm from the players who are already there and the new ones coming in, hopefully that'll all be a big positive.
Here, Matt, thanks very much for joining me today. It was just kind of to catch up and get your take on Ange and the pre-season coming up. There's going to be a lot more to talk about during the season, and hopefully you can join us on a regular basis to give us your opinion.
Absolutely. I love coming on your programme. I listen to it quite a lot. And I'm here anytime you want.
So, folks, just once again, thanks to Matt. And listen, if you hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel, we'll also have this out on audio as well if you prefer to go for a stroll or listen to the podcast in your car while you're driving to or from work if you're going back to work. But, folks, thanks very much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.